destiny is not. They are fortified by the impregnable doctrine built on love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. It is therefore folly at its greatest height for smelly culprits with insidious plans to invade such a realm. They try, but their own bad planning bring down wrath upon their head, but the sword old Damocles had. Now that bad planning is that bad intention. So keep that in mind. It's not bad planning; it's their intentions are bad. So once you rise to a certain level of your higher self, you get to be able to see people's bad intentions without them even saying it. That's why in the ranks of the Moors, we got time for the tomfoolery. Right? Intrigue and scurrilous cunning find a difficult path to travel within the ranks of the Moors. This is so because the Moorish movement has been well planned by Prophet Noble Ali, whose living powers are abundant, unknown, and may be called into action as a matter of defense at any moment. Prophet Noble Ali knows the people within his ranks who are interested. Peace. They're the vanguard of the movement as the Moorish hordes increasing in America. All of the Moors are active, not passive. A member's interest can only be in one direction. Having traveled over the roads years before, the prophet knows where every member is along the road. A few feet below is another road where schemers work, where traders grin, and culprits bask in the sun. They think they're on the same road with true Moors, but the Moors are high above on the pinnacle, where they might view the destructionists as they fall for the last time and their bones bleach in the sultry midday sun. Hungry scavengers flying high, catch scent, devour, and leave crying out, caveat emptor, cast out the dead carcass. The Moors high above these plotters, purveyors, the worst that exist, hurl themselves downward by their own works as the hawks of it. To be proclaimed at every meeting. Islam. I'm glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now, by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that I was only a joke and unreal. But now since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so that they may take charge of the situation. And I recently came across some information that so if you would like to write this down, the Moroccan ambassador to the United States in 1986 recognized the Moorish Science Temple of America's Islamic linkage to Morocco. Now, if that's not recognition, yeah. So so do your research on that and just see what you find. In 1986, the Moroccan ambassador to the United States, talking about the Kingdom of Morocco, recognized Noble Ali and the Moorish Science Temple of America's Islamic connection to the Kingdom of Morocco. So that's proof that, well, depending on what you find, you'll see if it's proof or not. Continuing, I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. There's even faithful Moors that attribute to the movement uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, your divine Moorish movement. I need finance and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past few years. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, this is the instructions from your prophet, Noble Ali. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is on now, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I, Noble Ali. And that's why many hearts have been turned to stone. Many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, least they would be confounded of their sins. These are trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving. They're trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah, in the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, or sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your property. Remember that the main weapon of the Inquisition is fear. Also, if you watch the movie, this new movie, Robin Hood, where Jamie Foxx plays the Moorish commander, you'll see where there's a scene where the sheriff of Nottingham is talking to one of the cardinals. He said, fear is one of the church's most powerful weapons. That's why they created hell. The church created that. Of this place that you go after you die and you're suffering and blah, 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 blah. So based on that fear, which is linked to the adrenochrome thing that they show in Monsters Inc., right? That puts the brain in fight or flight. So if we fear that the Europeans are going to do something, we're in fight or flight. Either we're going to fight them and challenge them, or we're going to let them do it. Which our ignorance has been leaning towards the let them do it side. That's why they say it doesn't matter what you hear or see, just be fearless. Right? But that doesn't mean you see. You put yourself in danger. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and natural principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace, the divine prophet, Noble Ali. The prophet wants all Muslims to be read at every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We're for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. Now again, that does not mean you don't need a nationality card. Because more, it will tell you we went to federal court, showed our Moorish nationality cards. The federal agent said, "Oh, what kind of ID is this?" And the team where it said nationality, and then he said, "Oh, it's national." Gave us back our stuff, and then we proceeded to file a claim. So that just because the prophet said that doesn't mean don't use it. You don't go walking around saying, "Look, I'm a Moor. Look, I'm a Moor." No one does that. We're for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, return to the state where the prophet found you. This is a holy divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Ali. That the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace. And again, the prophet said, all Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. He's the one who taught us all this stuff in the manner in which it was brought, right? So basically, based on what people utter from their mouth, if it's repugnant to what the prophet said, they're exposing themselves. Right? It's that simple. I know sometimes we don't want people to be dirty and we feel like, well, it should be like this or whatever it is that we're trying to justify in our minds to associate with these people. It is what it is. Trust me, I go through it too. So today we're going to talk about group economics. Before we go into the actual me reading and reading all the boring law stuff, does everyone know who Mansa Musa is?
I do.
You do?
I haven't read anything about it, but I've come across him so much time. He's one of our ancestors, very rich.
Yeah.
He actually did bridge a gap, I heard. Right? Did he bridge some sort of gap between? I was reading an article the other night. Some war he was involved in nothing. Duke Kaisei was talking about. I don't know.
So basically, Mansa Musa was an African king, so-called African, who ruled from Ghana. You know what Ghana is, right? So if you don't know, I'm going to draw a terrible picture of Africa.
Whoa. That is not Africa.
This is the Northwest. Ghana's around right here. Right, but obviously the jurisdictions were different back then. Right? You'll often hear this will be Timbuktu. I don't know if that's right. But Mansa Musa basically was a king who ruled Timbuktu. Additionally, when you study the expansion of the Moorish Empire, you'll see that we control Timbuktu. So based on those two things, we can come to the conclusion that Mansa Musa is a Moor. Mansa Musa was one of the richest kings in Africa. He was so rich that he ended up devaluing gold because he was giving it away to people. So there was nothing. That's what this guy is, huh?
No wars from the people.
Timeline around the 11th, 12th century.
So he caused inflation in their own market.
Yeah. Specifically in Cairo. And you'll see, when you study him, you'll see he traveled. He not only imported things from Al-Andalus, like goods from Al-Andalus, to build like things in Timbuktu and everywhere else he went, which not only showed you the expansion of our empire, but just our power as individuals. So as we're in this current situation of us being basically broke, it wasn't always like that. And we'll get into how we came into this position. Because people like him, who were these African, dark-skinned, big-nosed, big-lips people, were wealthy, extremely wealthy. There's stories of him traveling in caravans with 100 camels, all holding 50 pounds of gold. There's other stories about him traveling with, 500 slaves, every one of those slaves holding gold. And don't think slavery as in like, the South picking cotton thing. It was different. They weren't slaves like that, right? So when we see, like, they always show on the news, the first black so-and-so to do this, BS. Because people like him been existing. Like, the first black woman to go to college, that's BS because Moors built universities in Spain, Portugal, Morocco, Cape Verde. So how is it now, recently, the first black whatever to do something when we've been built these universities in Spain, Al-Andalus, Morocco, Portugal, right? So keep all this in mind during this plight that we're in, right? So please do your research on Mansa Musa and Timbuktu. So now I'm just going to read this thing that I titled Intro to Economics. So one of the greatest essential aspects of the Moorish movement is civic instructions. We all know this, right? Hopefully. The principle of adhering to the constitutional principles of law, as mentioned by Ali in his warning to the nations, and the issue of diversity of citizenship directly affects the commercial industry and economic power of the Moorish nation. And this is from Ali's Moorish leaders' historical message to America. The Prophet said, in conjunction with our religious aims and beliefs, we must promote economic security. The preaching of economic security amongst us is by no means as widespread and intensive as the circumstances demand. No one thing is more needed amongst us at this time than greater economic power. Better positions for our men and women, more business employment for our boys and girls, and bigger incomes will follow our economic security. We shall be secure in nothing until we have economic power. I'll read that again. We shall be secure in nothing until we have economic power. Now, what we were talking about earlier, filing a claim in federal court, right? What do we have to do? Pay a fee, right? There you go. Can't do anything without economic power. A beggar people cannot develop the highest in them, nor can they attain to a genuine enjoyment of the spiritualities of life. Again, what these federal courts are proposing to us, just since I mentioned it, it's either you pay the fee or you file informal pauperism, meaning a poor person or a prisoner, which is you begging, which the Prophet just said, a beggar people cannot develop the highest in them, nor can they attain a genuine enjoyment of the spiritualities of life. Right? In connection with the international principles of the Act of State doctrine, do we all know what that is? The active state doctrine states that every nation state, or every sovereign nation state, meaning like Brazil and China, are to recognize the sovereignty of every other nation state, meaning Brazil recognizes the sovereignty of China. You know what I'm saying? And the courts of one government, meaning Brazil, as in this example, cannot judge the actions of another government on their own land, meaning Brazilians, the court of Brazil, cannot judge what the Chinese people do in China. That's the active state doctrine. We clear? Sure?
Yeah.
Great. As well as Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, which is dealing with payments in gold and silver, and Article 20 on the Declaration of Human Rights, which is dealing with the right to association, as well as Article 17 of our treaty, which is dealing with merchants buying and selling at free will.
What year was it?
Which one?
Treaty.
1786, 1787. It is important for the indigenous Moors of North America to know that in connection to their commercial and business pursuits, they are not required by law to have a license, a permit, or the like in order for them to conduct business legitimately in or on our own homeland of North America. That's dealing with the active state doctrine. Because these Europeans, being from Europe, right, can't tell us how to do business on our land. Just in that situation where it said Brazil and China, the Brazilians can't say, hey, Chinese people need licenses to do hair in China. What kind of BS is that? Right? So keep in mind that when we're dealing with this and we're teaching our people that you don't need a license, inform them that from about the after the coup of 1861, from the 1870s to the 1930s, 12 million Europeans immigrated here. Immigrated to North America. Via Ellis Island. So now, most of these Europeans here, 12 million of them, and now they're claiming to be Americans. Yes. Right? Well, 12 million black people, right? Which they're black. Yes.
So, 3 years after that, didn't they started to do the birth certificate?
Yeah.
And then after that, they was the executive orders.
Yeah, we're gonna go into that.
Okay.
From the Library of Congress. That's because this has to be talked about. If anyone's going to talk about economic power here,
Mm-hmm.
what are we dealing with? We can't just say we need more economic power, right? Everyone, let's put in our Federal Reserve notes.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is the notes.
Mm-hmm.
And all these black leaders talk about we need the black dollar. The dollar's gold. So yeah, where's the Moorish dollar?
Mm-hmm.
Right, so keep in mind, 12 million Europeans immigrated here to North America. Prior to that, when you study, this is why we did the intro to American History Part 1 and 2, where I talked about the Barbary slave trade, how we brought them here, the relations between Queen Elizabeth and Sultan Al-Manzar, and then James I and the Sultan of Morocco, and then Virginia, the first free colony of Europeans because of that relation. And then I talked about the United States gaining independence from the crown in 1777, right? Because we need to realize that these Europeans are Europeans. And the reason why the Crown of England was granting them charters is because their sovereign monarchs were talking to our sovereign monarchs, and we allowed them to do so. Then the various Europeans freed themselves from their crown, and then our Sultan recognized them as an independent body in 1777. And you can find evidence of that in the secret journals of Congress. It's the secret proceedings of Congress. It was published by something Thomas, or his first name was Thomas, something like that. And you'll see where in 1780, during the Second Continental Congress, the Congress of the 13 colonies wrote a letter to the Sultan of Morocco, thanking him for allowing their ships to port in Moroccan ports. That's how we recognize them. You know what I'm saying? Because before the United Nations existed, The Moorish Empire was doing everything the UN is doing, controlling everything. You know what I'm saying? So just as the United Nations has something for non-governing indigenous people, the Moroccan Empire had councils for the same purpose, to reach out to those governments trying to establish themselves, which the United States was one. You know what I'm saying? Trying to establish themselves as an actual nation of people. We did that for them. All right? So keep in mind, again, these people came here, one, as our servants, and then two, after they overthrew the union between us and the United States. 12 million of them came here, then started acting like the Americans. After the coup of 1861, right? They assassinated Abraham Lincoln, then they created a, right? Blah, 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 blah. So now, can these people, these foreigners, then tell us what to do? That's the active state doctrine. Get it? I know it's kind of going in a circle, but I'm trying to make it redundant so you realize the active state doctrine is more than what people are presenting it to be. You literally don't need a license from these foreigners on your land. Active state doctrine. Because the word license means permission. So how's a foreigner giving you permission to braid hair, to cook, to be a barber? Makes sense.
Your own house.
Yes.
You
make it.
reference 3 documents, can you just,
3 documents.
you reference 3 different.
Can you give me a hint? Because I just said a lot.
Yeah, I know.
The active state.
doctrine.
Right, you reference 2 other, or 3 other.
Oh, the
supporting-
proceedings, the secret journals of the proceedings of Congress. Actually, it's on my Facebook. Check real fast. Yeah, it's fire. I'll read an excerpt from it.
Hurt my eye on my phone reading the whole thing. I'm like,
The Facebook is Rise of the Moors, if you want to check it.
You reference articles.
Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution. Article 20 on the Declaration of Human Rights,
Thank you.
and then the treaty.
what year was the active state doctrine?
That's it, thank you.
You're welcome. The active state doctrine, it was dealing with Cuba. Okay, off the top of my head. I'll find the date right now. The active state doctrine. So I see 2 dates here. 1964. Yes. It was when Cuba nationalized their sugar industry. Cuba nationalized, so they're claiming their stuff back. So then someone tried to say, well, they're doing this. Well, that's their land, so they can do whatever they want. So to some degree, the United States does recognize international law. It's just we have to start operating as a nation of people, not a group in a club in a, well, help me with my situation, me, I, do this for me. What are we gonna do? So, back to the other document. Excuse me 1 second. It is the secret journals of the Congress of the Confederation, which is the Second Continental Congress, Foreign Affairs, the acts and proceedings of Congress from the first meeting thereof to the dissolution of the Confederation by the adoption of the Constitution of the United States. Volume 3, published by Thomas B. Wait, 1820. And there is a PDF version of the book, so you can just Control F, search Morocco, and you'll see like here's one of the things that they said. This is the 13 colonies, right? It said the Congress of the 13 United States of North America to the high potent and most noble prince, the king, and emperor of Morocco. How are you a prince, emperor, and a king? That means you're top dog. Right? That's what it says. And it says, we, the Congress of the 13 United States of America, have been informed of your Majesty's favorable regard to the interest of the people we represent. And then you read the rest, right? So again, these people can't give us licenses on our own land. Proof that they recognize our sovereignty by calling our ruler the prince, the king, and the emperor. Right? Yeah. So again, Moors don't need to have any licenses, etc., 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 on our own land, right? By mere definition alone, the word license means permission, meaning without one having in their immediate possession a license issued by the agency issuing said license, then by mere operation of law and the contractual obligations of said license, the licensee is not allowed to conduct the business or acts associated with the license without it. Everyone tracking? Right? Thus, restricting one's own ability to provide for their family, which is against the Declaration, well, which is against the Constitution. Because even if you read the Massachusetts Constitution, it says all men are born free and equal and have the certain natural, essential, and unalienable rights, among which may be reckoning the right of enjoying and defending their lives and liberties. How can you possibly do that if you can't work without someone's permission? That of acquiring, possessing, and protecting their property. How can you get your property if you got to work for someone else to buy something? Who's a foreigner on your land, right? And find that of seeking, obtaining their safety and happiness, which the prophet just said will never be happy if we're a beggar people, right? And now what I'm about to transition into, because a lot of people have questions about business and trademarks and copyrights. There's something called a common law copyright and a common law trademark. Meaning you don't got to know federal government, pay no fine to have them put something on paper when you're doing the majority of the work and they're just recording it. Right? So according to the common law, all that is necessary for one to operate in whatever capacity they see fit is mental competence. So if you're a janitor, I don't need to see your janitor's license. Do you know how to do janitorial work or not? Right? If you're a painter, I don't need to see your painter's license. Do you know how to paint or not? If you're a low voltage technician, I don't need to see your low voltage technician's license. Do you know how to do it or not? Can you splice wires or not? Do you know what RJ45 is or not? So you don't know. Right? The knowledge, skill set, and ability to properly perform whatever it is that you are doing. Beyond that exists one's own liability and honor to conduct one's business appropriately and safely in regards to the public. That's it. Meaning, if you have a restaurant, you should be able to look at a building. Oh, it's abandoned. All right, let me fix it up. You make it a restaurant. And then, yeah, that's you fixing it up. Let me just fix it up real fast. Then you should be able to sell your food, make food, and do whatever that is necessary. Right? You don't need no license, no health inspector needs to come, unless you get reports from the people you're serving saying, well, I'm getting sick now. Or, why is there roaches in this? Then, you'll get shut down.
Yeah.
Or correct yourself and, you're already losing business. Because keep in mind, the word credit is your reputation, not some number that these Europeans made up. That's something that they made up. Your credit is your credibility amongst the people. That's it. Yeah. Not this fake credit score that they're saying, well, since you got a 3 on your credit score, we're not going to give you a loan. Well, you don't even know who I am. Because if you don't have a credit card, you don't get a credit score. So what are you basing that score on? You know what I'm saying? But if word around town is, Leonidas pays his debts, then I'll be more willing to loan you money.
Right.
But if she starts saying, I loaned Leonidas $500 a week ago, he never gave it back. He said, I gave him $1,000 a month ago, he never gave it back. She says, I gave him $2 3 days ago, he didn't give it back. I'm not going to give you money. I'm just tarnishing you there.
They ain't got no proof.
Right.
I spent it on diapers.
All right, so now I'm going to just read the definition of economy. This is just an intro, so it's just things are being presented to you. I'm not really tracking. All right, so economy is frugality. Mm-hmm. It includes, I'm going to read that later. I have to definition of that too. It includes that which pertains to the satisfaction of man's needs. That's what economy means.
Say it again.
It includes that which pertains to the satisfaction of man's need, or man's needs.
So that which to satisfy what a thinker needs.
Yeah. Yeah. Frugality is the quality of being frugal, sparing, thrifty, prudent, or economical in the consumption of consumables or consumable resources such as food, time, or money, and avoid avoid waste, lavishness, or extravagance. Yeah, we gotta be bougie. Instead of getting the $3,000 curtains, we got the 15. Because they do the same thing and they still look good. That's being frugal. And then here's the definition of license: is a certificate or the document itself which gives permission. Right? Permission or authority. We all know this. The word business, because every time, like, once we start teaching our people we know law, they start asking for business. I'm like, help me make my business legit. Help me do this with my business. Right? This is what the word business means. They don't even know what the word business means. The term business has no definite or legal meaning. So how could we possibly make your business legal if the word business doesn't have a legal meaning? And then how can they say that we're conducting business illegally if the word business has no legal meaning?
That's why they say the nature of the business.
Yeah. Yeah, but now if we're talking about that, we're talking about was a crime committed, is there an inter-party? So now back to the restaurant situation. Depending on what country you live in, it's not legal to serve people roaches without them knowing. But in certain countries, that's what they eat. Go to the Philippines.
Yeah, that's a delicacy. The hissing cockroach.
Those are
Little insects.
I actually read those roaches for a while to feed tropical lizards. They don't consider them roaches, they're delicacy.
So if you're in the Bronx, I don't think that's a delicacy.
Those are roaches.
Yeah, hey, go to your neighbors, let me get some of those. What's up? Don't do that.
I'm sure. I'm a case of beer.
No.
Projects is not, they never have a shortage on roaches. All right.
There's got to be a way to make money over roaches.
Export it to the Philippines.
I'm going to get on that. I'm about to
All the way from the Bronx
It's into
to
that,
the
bro.
All right, let's get back to this.
It's got to be a
Let's
way.
get back to this, man. All right. Business, it says may embrace or may mean. It may or may not. Because remember, there's no legal meaning. Activity of some continuity, regularity, or permanency, means of material being and livelihood, or the activity or enterprise for gain, benefit, advantage, or livelihood. So anything you do is your business. Do you need a license to do that? Here's the definition of commercial: relating to or connecting with trade and traffic or commerce in general. Now here's the important thing that we need to know. Well, I want to trademark my stuff, make sure no one can use it. I want to copyright my stuff so no one can blah, 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 right? Common law trademark is one appropriated under common law rules regardless of statutes. Right?
Regardless of statute?
Yeah, it doesn't matter what's written.
That's a good question.
Like if I create something, by the common law, since I created it, I have rights to it. Ain't no, you need to sign this, put name here, put this here, let me see, how much money you take, how many heirs you got in your house, what's the race, you
That's
know.
why they came up with the whole
Makes sense to you?
ASCAP thing.
Can you use that as a private?
What? Wait, what's ASCAP? I heard of it, but
That's where, so
state as well.
ASCAP is like the connotative term for what I'm looking at. That whole copyright situation where I thought out of your head is not your own until you
Yeah,
copyright
that's
it.
BS.
Yeah.
It's called common law copyright. It's called your intellectual property.
But in school, they're literally teaching our children
Of
that
course.
thoughts are not theirs. And like, so when you go to business, 'cause I went to college for business administration, they teach you this in business class that the importance of ASCAPing, copyrighting, because your thoughts are not yours, and whether you write it down, you blurt it out.
Now, that's part of the wardship status. Because remember, your status is your mental competence. So if they tell you, your thoughts don't mean anything.
Yeah,
You have to get an attorney. Now you're willingly giving up your rights to someone else.
Yes.
I write books and I have my books copyrighted, so what if I wanted to post it on like the website and stuff?
Yeah.
But I don't want nobody like famous to take it.
Yeah.
So how?
Now you can record the time and date in which you wrote the book. If you wrote it, have an original, scan it. I mean, so you have proof.
Well,
the date. And it's
old
challenged if someone steals it and you find out, sue them.
That's why you do
The old school way for that is to mail it to yourself. Immediately when you
Yeah,
pay,
they call
package it, stamp it,
yeah.
fingerprint, all that, and just send it right back to
They
your
call
address.
poor man's,
That's poor man's
copyright.
Yeah,
copyright.
but you make poor. It's called common law copyright.
Right,
So
common
change
law.
the word.
Oh,
okay.
Not one some poor, common law copyright.
Okay, so send it to myself.
Yeah, you send it to yourself.
Okay.
Time
But
and
also
date.
remember, prima facie evidence.
Yes.
You don't have to do nothing. Just this exists. Show me your earlier documents. Because remember, everything would have to be argued in a court of law. So they have to prove that they came up with it. Just because you filed something and had a trademark, that don't mean you own it.
If you,
Yes.
For example, let's say Riseofthemoors is your quote unquote intellectual property, and someone wants to open up another Riseofthemoors in Texas, and they're kind of following the
We have the right to
same.
sue them.
Okay, so it depends who created it first.
First, yeah.
So you have your documents. If they don't have their documents, then therefore they don't have
Yeah.
standing at law.
Mhm. So then we'd have to prove who was there first.
And then Ellie's in Texas next week.
also, if you mail it to yourself, don't open it. That is you save it for the day you have to go to court.
Additionally, let's look at what the prophet did, right? Because he's a genius, right? He warned the Moors, if you're not careful, in 50 years, you won't even know that I was here. Right? In 1913, had the old Canaanite temple. Right? Then in 1925, it was the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. Then the Moorish Holy Temple of Science adopted as its corporate name, the Moorish Science Temple of America. Why? Because that was outside of dirty Moorish jurisdiction. You can't remove something off of someone else's record. So now no one else, after they murdered him, no one else can claim to be the founder because it's on record. He's the founder. He's the grantor. His signature is there. Common law copyright.
I'm definitely gonna look into that up and we'll skip it to check it out.
You
It should be
can
right,
put
it
on
should
the
be right
county
in your,
record.
should be in your city hall, town halls, right in your local places, right?
Yeah, put on the record, public record, boom.
Yeah, because then people will ask, oh, where do I get a common law copyright? How do I
Make
find
it up. Write it.
You just write it yourself. But the
Same way you wrote the book, the same way you wrote your name, just write it. This is my property.
boom,
You don't know.
I know.
Well, how do we do that in a case like someone produces song from a studio spot, whatever it is?
Yeah.
Dealing with ASCAP, when you said it earlier, BMI, they only give you only if you have an EIN number to be a publisher.
Of course.
But the right into it is a separate entity. How do we deal with, digital world now? How do we?
Yeah, I just said you could go file it with the county, city clerk, the registrar, get a certified copy. If they scan it, which becomes digital, then you can take the same thing, scan it as well.
He's talking about music or like something.
So now
You can put it on a
it's
flash
still-
drive and mail it to yourself the same as a book.
But yes, in order to do business with the entire world, to be
Well, this is
put it
where-
on iTunes.
This is where you gotta be like Ludacris. Sell it out of your trunk yourself. Ludacris, they go to all because when Luda did it, they wouldn't Luda ran into the same thing. He didn't want to give it to them.
Mhm.
And then they told him unless you blue book it,
Mhm.
do all because I did it too, and I had to blue book my information and ask him, I know all about this stuff. So when you do that, you literally give it to them.
Yes.
So to keep it for yourself, you gotta be the man. So everyone gotta know you got it for sale. But I know you wanna when it comes to mass production and getting into other people, you can also do that yourself. It just takes
A better example for that is Ryan Leslie. He used chain lock technology. So you can't get his music from anywhere else but his platform, and it's chain block. So if I have his CD downloaded on my phone, I can't use it anywhere else. I can't give it anywhere else. I can't let a friend borrow it. I can't burn a CD from it. It's chain
It
block.
is registered somewhere here because I heard about.
No, it's just registered with him. It's only
Let's
his.
be clear. Let's be clear what the word register means. It just means recorded.
Yeah.
That's it. You can record it with yourself.
Mhm.
It's recorded now.
Yep.
That's common law.
Instead of letting someone else register it, it'll be a thing that they identify, it'll be a thing that you identify.
Yeah.
Register it yourself.
Which
You identify.
we're dealing with Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, stating that no obligations shall be placed on contracts. Meaning, if you want to produce your stuff, they have no authority to say you need a social, you need this, you need that, you need this. That's violating the Constitution.
Yeah. That comes from using third-party platforms.
Yeah.
So if
But yes, you're right. But now you're also dealing with the right to buy and sell at free will. If you want their services, then submit, then bow to them, because that's what they're asking you to do.
Yeah.
Bow to me, then I'll do this.
It's pretty much, they present it in a nice business manner, but they're telling you, buy it.
Submit.
We'll mass produce it for you. We'll shove it down everyone's throat for you. We'll bully stores to keep it on their shelves, and then when they turn it's trash.
Yep.
I'm just saying, throwing it out there.
We've been through the ring.
I see it done.
So this is the definition of common law copyright. This is from the law book. This ain't my words. Go to any attorney office, and if they have Black's Law Dictionary, open it up, which is one proof that they have the same books, and then proof that they all know this, right? Common law copyright. An intangible, meaning you can't touch it. Incorporeal, meaning it's not physical. Right? In an author or literary or artistic production to reproduce and sell them exclusively, meaning only you, right? And arises at the moment of their creation, the second you create it, you own it, right? As distinguished from federal, which just means contract, that's all it means. Federal simply means contract. Or statutory copyrights, which exist for the most part only in published works. Common law copyright is perpetual, meaning what? It never ends, meaning what? Now, perpetual means it doesn't end. Intangible and incorporeal means you can't touch it. Perpetual means it never stops, meaning you could then take this intellectual property and then give it to your heirs. And then they give it to their heirs. And then give it to theirs. Give it to theirs. So it just never ends. Now you're talking about family wealth, generational wealth, and a trust fund. Something that you put aside in trust for your heirs. Right? Economics. Right? It's perpetual. While statutory copyrights is for a term of years. Meaning these people ask that go to the federal government and you got to keep paying them and paying them and paying them and paying them. So do you really know that? Don't sound like it, right? Equitable relief is available for violation of common law right. What's that mean? That means you can sue someone for using your products and selling your products.
But if you build an idea, can be able to be the same?
I'll read it again for you. Common law copyright arises at the moment of their creation. When you think it, that's you created it. It may not exist physically. That's why it's intangible. You can't touch someone's thoughts.
Some people may have similar ideas that are identical.
Yeah, similar.
Yeah, similar and sometimes identical. So you're saying in order for it to be yours, you have to just document it first.
Yes.
Let me ask you this.
Hold on, because when normally people copyright something, a game, a tool, whatever, you have to describe what it looks like. If it's art or whatever, you have to describe what it looks like. You have to describe how the mechanisms work. If you created like a board game or a remote control car, you have to write all of that down. Does it have a motor? Does it have a belt? Is it battery powered? Is it gasoline? You have to write all of that down. You have to be as specific as possible. And since you created it, it should be easy for you to do that. You know what I'm saying? So that way, if anyone produces anything like that, you can say, well, you got that from me. And then sue them, which it said, equitable relief is available for violation of common law copyrights. So as long as you put in the necessary work to describe your product, to describe your idea, you know what I mean? So always remember, I'm being detailed as possible so I can possibly win in court.
He's talking about if you genuinely thought like you came up with an idea but it just so happened great minds think alike, and it already exists. It would be individual to you because this specific, like a Fire Stick and a, what is it
Roku.
called? Roku. They're almost the same thing, but they work differently. Yeah.
So you can't sue someone in that instance because it's not the same thing. That's why I say you have to be specific on how it works.
It's the same
How it
type of
functions.
technology, but it's it's,
So can I ask you this? So blueprint, you could be able to create your own blueprint. Like they say, like, oh, I need to be able to be certified with a blueprint by the state, blah, 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 blah. That's all that. So you can be able to create your own blueprint and certify them by common law, and then automatically it's on to you.
Yes.
So why the reason why they, the corporation wants you to be able to have some type of like status as a they certifying that it's yours. Why they want you?
So
Pay
that
for
way,
it.
you always go to them and put money in their pockets. That's why. That's simple. To control what we do. It's that simple.
That's
That's it.
very absurd.
That's literally it. So they can keep robbing us. But it's not robbery because we're agreeing because we have the right to contract.
Yeah,
And we
because
have
they
the right
right
to
without
agree to be
conscience.
someone's servant. Yeah. Right. Sorry, go ahead.
The people who have a business out there, our sister, what's her name? Selena. Selena has a book. Selena wrote her book. Selena describes her book in great detail, from cover to cover. What it's about, each character, everything that you can possibly put in a summary of this book. And then you send a manuscript of the book and a description of this book to yourself, certified mail. And Janaea taught me that when you send anything certified mail, you put the number on the bottom of each, on the footer of every document.
Yep.
Send it to yourself,
It
do
creates
not
joy
open
here.
it, and then you are protected.
The number from certified.
Yeah, so this is what certified mail looks like. This is certified mail. You get it from the post office. I didn't steal it, you can take it. This is the certified mail.
That's the law.
Certified mail receipt, and this is the domestic return receipt that people sign for. Right? They both have numbers at the bottom of them. And this part peels off. So this part, the top part will peel off, go on this line, well, this has its own number, right? So you would basically type this number at the bottom of your documents. So now, even if you're sending it to someone else, so if they sign for this, they're signing the papers as well. You know what I'm saying? Which is proof that they got it.
So I need to get the certified thing before I can.
No, well, you don't need to. You don't need to do anything, but yes, you can. You can also, the same way she said do that, you'll have it all scanned. You can also scan it, put it on the county record too, if you choose.
Yeah, that's what I did before I paid them.
or you can create your own number and put that in your family trust. So just how you would at the footer of all the manuscripts, you can put a number or, copyright for your family trust at the bottom, or put your family seal on it, and it'll have to go back to your family trust.
Yeah, if anybody wants to be able to make contract with you, you're an dependable contractor, you could be able to make your own contract and decide with any publisher that wants to, correct?
Yep, and now you're the secured party creditor. You know, financial nothing and nothing. You created it, so you're the secured party because you created it. No one else can use it without going to you, meaning you're secure.
Yeah.
Meaning you got the credit because you wrote it. Meaning it's based on your reputation because you wrote it or made it or whatever. Right? So when you listen to these people talk about I'm a secured party creditor and I'm this and I'm that, a secured party creditor does not say that they're secured
They
party
want you to
creditor. No, they're people who just ego trip. A secured party creditor does not say I'm a secured party creditor. You just
They're securing their property publicly, though. They gotta let everybody know.
like Moors who are competent don't walk around saying I'm competent. No, that's not how it works. Right? And sovereigns don't walk around saying, well, I'm sovereign. That's not how it works. No, true sovereigns don't do that. You hear Chinese people saying, well, we're sovereign Chinese people of China. No, they just say I'm Chinese. They do whatever they want because that's what sovereigns do. Sovereignty means absolute power, right? So, you need a break? Yes, take a break.
Yes.
Everyone else said yes, so yeah. Time for the break.
2 o'clock.
It's 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. All right, so be back at 2:10, please. 10 minutes. Sip some water. You know, the mic's on. So
It's on.
all right, so we're gonna start. Excuse me, sorry for the interruption. Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah.
So, we'd like to recap the things that we just went over. I'm saying who would like to, not if you want me to do it. Let's see who's paying attention. You can read your notes. That's fine.
I didn't know like the active state doctrine thing with like Brazil can't judge China. That's what-
Yeah, so that applies that the United States can't judge the Moorish nation. The Moorish nation can't judge the United States. So we're just going over a recap of what was in. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm saying common law, copyright, and trademarking.
So can you explain?
Common law, copywriting is inaccessible historical right to reproduce themselves them from the moment of creation.
The word doesn't mean, this is the means outside.
Yeah, by definition, it means outside. So when we think of the word consul and consulate, a lot of people are arguing we don't need a consulate on our own land because they're saying since we're home we don't need it. But we're dealing with foreigners, and the way to deal with foreigners who currently right now these foreigners are administrating our land, right? Meaning they're exercising jurisdictional powers over our land that they don't have. And in order for nations to talk, right, to deal with when dealing with jurisprudence, they communicate through councils. So that's how we have to communicate to them, because that's the international platform. You can't just say, "Hey, what's up?" You know what I'm saying? That's why I use that example of the Court of Britain, the Supreme Court of Britain in China, because that's the only way that the British people can talk to the Chinese people.
Not to throw like a wrench into your conversation, but or throw a pebble. Supreme Grand Council. Why would we need a Supreme Grand Council in conjunction with the American Constitution? Which comes first, or does it really matter?
So you can't say which comes first because the prophet already set it up. The issue the Supreme Grand Council
What is it? What
is the supreme authority of the Moorish Science Temple of America. They are the people that states what is and what is not injurious to the teachings, the philosophy, and the science of the Moorish Science Temple of America and Prophet Noble Drew Ali. They should be regarded as the legislative power within the Moorish Science Temple of America. Now, there's 3 branches of government, right? Executive, who the prophet was the executive. Because remember, this is a theocratic constitutional monarch, right? So we can view the prophet as not just the prophet. He said himself he's a prophet in general. We can view him as our sultan. So he would be the executive. The Supreme the Supreme Grand Council would be the legislative. The Council of Court would be the judicial.
That deals with international and national.
Yes, as well as if we're going to elect someone, if we want to impeach them, they have to go to who? The courts. Right?
Council. Yeah.
So they're not to be seen as separate.
Or part of the body.
Yeah, we're part of the body.
So if anyone were to say we need this instead of that, then we're just
They're wrong. That's like saying we need government before we can do commerce. Or we need commerce before we do government. We need both.
it's a body.
Additionally, in the prophet's warning to the nations, he said those who fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law are subject to mistreatments that other citizens care to bestow upon them, because they place their trust upon issues formed by their forefathers. That trust is the treaty that our forefathers signed, which is dealing with council court, which the prophet then said enforce the Constitution.
It's going over some people's head. They're so gung-ho about the prophet did not say it.
No, this is what it is.
Yeah.
This is from me observing.
Yeah.
A lot of people just want to be right. They don't want to actually comprehend what they're saying. They just want to be on who's right. You know what I'm saying? Because if you just read what he said they placed their trust upon issues formed by their forefathers. Our forefathers made the treaty. The treaty is the trust between the Moroccan Empire and the United States. It says council in the treaty. It says more in the treaty. The Constitution for the United States says all domestic contracts and treaties entered before the adoption of the United States shall be valid against the United States as under the Confederation. What more do you want? Yeah, the prophet then said, half has not been told. If I told you everything, you'd go back to sleep. Meaning you wouldn't be doing it. Because then you just think, oh, everything's fine. Like, everything's not fine. Great question. Great series of questions. You done?
Yeah, it goes over people's head. They don't have the common sense of the interconnecting of government is not.
Yeah.
Like there's one bylaws. You could look generally how the globe is run, how governments are run other countries. You have these branches to and interweave and make sure there's a line of commands and chain of commands versus we just need this and that and nothing else.
And checks and balances.
Yeah,
That's why there's 3 branches of the United States government for checks and balances. There's no judicial body, so there's no judicial body checking the Supreme Grand Council. Because they exist. There's people claiming to be these members, these people, but there's no one holding them accountable.
Yeah.
They're just saying, well, I'm this. And then there's no official website to reach these people. And then they're inactive because they're not saying, well, these mores are wrong, these mores are right. This is what the prophet said and show and prove. If you go to Chicago for yourself and see for yourself who these people are and what they're claiming, and look at their charter on their wall, and you see for yourself what their charters look like. You see these people are frauds. But these people do exist. So people saying the Supreme Grand Council doesn't exist, they don't know what they're talking about because there's people claiming to be in that seat. Meaning the seat exists.
They were elected, selected, appointed.
Well, here's a problem within the Moorish Temple of America. After the prophet was assassinated, Ill was appointed by the prophet to take the seat. C. Kirkman Bey was claiming that he was in charge, and then the prophet's chauffeur was claiming to be the prophet reincarnated, and then there was another guy claiming to be the prophet reincarnated. So now there's 3 splinter groups within the Moorish Temple of America, as well as groups like us who we're not chartered temples, but we're Moors. We're trying to get remedy for our people and get out of this BS situation. We got things like the Moors Order of the Round Table. We got things like the House of Reawakening Minds. We have things like Rami Salam El's temple that he set up. Now we're splintered because of the heads of the organization being dirty and them assassinating the honorable ones and them threatening their wives to get things done and them threatening to kill people, as well as the riots that happened after the prophet died because the police were involved shooting at the Moors and more shooting at each other because there was infiltration. So it's more than just what it seems. And if anyone doubts what I'm saying, you can Google FBI papers of the Moorish Temple of America, and you see that the FBI, which is not constitutional, according to this book right here, the FBI had informants within the Moorish Temple of America, informing them, telling them what we had. The prophet had markets. The prophet had grocery stores, manufacturing plants, all the things that we need right now, the prophet already had. The prophet had a treasury. So now if anyone's going to challenge anyone else about this Supreme Grand Council, don't challenge individuals, challenge them. Where's the money at? Because the prophet said himself, the glory of the king is the welfare of the people. All right, let me slow that down. The glory of the king is the welfare of the people. All right? The prophet said, until you maintain a national treasure, you'll be nothing. He already said that. He already had it set up. That's why he said maintain. He didn't say establish it. Maintain, because he already set it up. Meaning there's already money, right? So now, if it also states that in the Quran, that the king established new colonies and we're a body of Moors, why isn't the Supreme Grand Council reaching out to us, investing in us so we have more businesses? So then we can pay taxes to them to keep government running. Because now you got your own business. You got your own business. You got your own business. So now you're not working for no European. You have your own schedule. You're making your own money. Now you pay temple dues. Then the temple pays the Supreme Grand Body and everything's supposed to run smoothly.
And if you get some kind of blowback from the community health, that's a foreigner, then you could go to the Supreme Grand Council.
Yes,
say,
which is supposed to be representing us internationally, which they're not doing. Yeah, going right track. I know you know. But yeah. Want to add anything else? Anyone else want to add anything else?
My thing is this. How is it
all this law and all this civics and everyone being civically inclined.
Hold on. I have to stop you there. Because not everyone's being civically inclined.
I'm talking about
Generalities.
I'm talking about, yeah, the Moors, everyone's pointing fingers claiming who's doing what right and who's doing what wrong, right?
Yeah.
They are not the ones, because when you look at this and you look at it in a higher self perspective, there is no need to take up guns and go be ignorant and angry and point fingers at who the oppressor is. There's actually a cool, calm, and collective way to go right through and handle
Go court and sue them.
like
every other nation does.
Why isn't, with all this teaching going on, is there a line out of every de facto organization they got, a line of us, and I guarantee you a line of us will also attract a line of the counterparts of them outside of these facilities, giving them the business.
Now listen to this. Because of the infiltration and these dirty Moors claiming that we're citizens and all this BS, they're not instructing the sheiks below them, because you got the Supreme Grand Sheiks, you got the Grand Sheiks, and you got regular sheiks. Chain of command. Supreme Grand Sheiks are holding the Grand Sheiks accountable. The Grand Sheiks ain't holding the sheiks accountable because they're in their private group club robbing our people. You know what I'm saying? And we can. All right, so let's do this, right?
Is that the same as a national Grand Sheik, Supreme Grand Sheik?
Yeah. Every sheik is a national sheik because we're part of the Moorish what? Don't let these people and their titles confuse you. So now, certain people in certain temples say, well, we're citizens of the United States, right? That's what they say, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Now, they're basing that off of the 14th Amendment, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's do this just as an example to expose that they don't know what they're talking about. Either they don't know what they're talking about, which means they're incompetent, or they're lying to the people, meaning they're dirty, right? Let's look at this. This document is from the Library of Congress. All right, let's just show this for the record. This is from the Library of Congress. Now, is this Jamal's document? Is that Jamal's seal? Is that Jamal's signature? It says 101 Independence Avenue, Washington, D.C., telephone number 202-707-5650, www.loc.libraryofcongress.gov, duplication services at loc.gov, right? They're sealed. You can see this is not a copy, that's three-dimensional, right? You can feel that, right? Library of Congress, congressional records, proceedings and debates of the 90th Congress, first session, volume 113, part 12, June 12, 1967 to June 20th, 1967. This is to clear confusion because, like you said, how come there's not lines of people at these courts? It's because there's confusion. One group of more saying we are citizens, another group saying we're not. So here's proof from the Library of Congress. We'll see what Congress says about the 14th Amendment and us being citizens or not. Because if we're not citizens, that means we can't vote, right? Which other Moors are also saying that we can vote within the United States. Let's see what Congress said. Not a Moor talking about the United States. Let's talk about the United States Congress themselves. This is what they said. Again, seal. Let me show the other camera. Actually, let me do this as well. Library of Congress.
And when the prophet says, go to those who know law.
Congress, Library of Congress.
Right.
They know law, right?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Don't be touching now. Make sure you got clean fingers. Don't mess up these documents. Yes. More pictures, huh? 4 hours.
Bird on the seal.
And the feds. No, they don't care. You got the iPad. Alright. So again, this is did I show this camera?
Mm-mm.
Library of Congress. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Great. This is what Congress says, right? This is to certify that the collections of the Library of Congress contained a serial entitled Congressional Record, Proceedings and Debate of the 90th Congress, First Session, Volume 113, Part 12, June 12, 1967 to June 20th, 1967, and that the attached photocopies from the serial, the binding spine label, the title page, the stamp page, and page 15640 through 15646 are a true representation from that work. This is to certify further that the spine label bears a sticker with the Library of Congress call number that reads, I'll write it, Lima, Lima, Kilo, Foxtrot, 35, Victor, 113, Papa, Tango, 12, 1967.
Sound like the police.
Juliet, Uniform, November, Echo, 12/20, set 2. In addition to this, the stamp page has a stamp that reads 4 Delta Echo Charlie 11 copy 4 1968. In witness thereof, the seal of the Library of Congress is affixed hereto on January 28, 2019. So is this old? Okay, January 28, 2019. Rosalina Delgado Jones, Assistant Business Enterprise Officer, Office of Business Enterprises, Library of Congress. This is on page 15641, Congressional Record, House of Representatives, June 13, 1967. The 14th Amendment is unconstitutional. The purported 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution is and should be held to be ineffective, invalid, null, void, and unconstitutional for the following reasons, and then it enumerates them. Number 1, the joint resolution proposing said amendment was submitted to or adopted by a constitutional Congress, was not submitted to or adopted by a constitutional Congress, Article 1, Section 3, and Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution. Number 2, the joint resolution was not submitted to the President for his approval, said at Article 1, Section 7. Number 3, because remember, they killed Abraham Lincoln. They assassinated him. Number 3, the proposed 14th Amendment was rejected by more than 1/4 of all the states then in the Union, and it was never ratified by 3/4 of the states in the Union, said at Article 5. And then remember, when you read the prophet's warning to the nation, he talked about how the 14th and 15th Amendment brought the North and South in unit, meaning they were divided, which they just said that. All right, additionally, let's just go to the next one. Let's just see right here. This is on page 15642, June 13, 1967. Texas rejected the 14th Amendment on October 27, 1866. Georgia rejected the 14th Amendment on November 9th, 1866. Florida rejected it December 6, 1866. Alabama, December 7, 1866. North Carolina, December 14, 1866. You get the point. From Congress. So any so-called black leader, any so-called Supreme Grand Chief, any so-called Grand Chief, any so-called Sheik, any so-called Moor talking about we're citizens of the United States because of the 14th Amendment. Do they study? Do they read? Do they do any research, honestly, at all, whatsoever? What do you mean I can't say that? Why not? Because if they're regurgitating, they're not doing research.
You gotta stay by your truth.
Man knows not by being told.
I didn't tell you, Congress did.
Right. That's what they're right.
So additionally, now back to economics. I apologize. You have a question? Oh, sorry. Back to economics, right? So we cannot. Janae and I talk about us rising as a people all the time. And it always gets brought up, we need an active government. In order to support government, what do we need? Finance. In order to get finance, what do we need? To provide business opportunities for our people. But how do we do that in this current condition that we're in right now? This is why I try to remind people we're not in this alone. If you read the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, it says that states, such as the state of Rhode Island, such as the United States, because they're both states, are obligated in ensuring the economic conditions of indigenous people increases. And they are to take special measures, and where appropriate, well, excuse me, it says they're supposed to take effective measures, and where appropriate, special measures, meaning funding, in ordering, ensuring that our condition gets better, right? So that's one. We ain't in it alone, because these people have an obligation to us, because that's what you get for, after one nation wars with another nation, there's something called reparations, meaning repairing the nation, meaning they owe us money, right? Secondly, we have to address the issue of Federal Reserve notes, right? In dealing with equity, how we can't equitably or fairly or justly pay anything in Federal Reserve notes. Because if you check the law book, a note is a promise to pay. Can I pay you with a promise to pay? Can I pay you with an IOU?
How, Sway?
You know what I'm saying? Yes. You know what I'm saying? So this is also part of the reason when you ask the question, why aren't there Moors lined up? Because one, they don't know that. They also don't know this right here. So this is the public papers and addresses of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Executive order, write this down. Again, for the record, this is from the Library of Congress, so this ain't Jamal just making blanket statements. Oh, I found this online and I printed it. This is from the Library of Congress. Good? Mm-hmm. So what I'm about to show you right now is how, there's a few documents I'm about to show you, how they were able to remove gold from circulation. Now remember I was talking about Mansa Musa earlier, how gold was just, here you go, just throwing gold like crazy. Because our family had wealth. Our families weren't always in the condition that we're in right now. You get what I'm saying? We had trust funds for our heirs, and etc. Just like Trump talked about how his father gave him a $12 million loan or whatever, because he had a trust fund.
What do they think our infatuation with jewelry and chains and all that comes from?
It's what?
That's a real answer.
So as I'm reading this, think in your mind how often you see the cash for gold places outside. Mm-hmm. Right? So again, this is from Franklin Delano Roosevelt. This is gold coin, gold bullion, and gold certificates are required to be delivered to the government. Executive Order number 6102. This is when the prophet said, take a gold out of the banks and put it in the post office. Him being a prophet, he knew that they were about to rob the people. You know what I'm saying? And this is where you hear like people like Tashreeq Bey say the prophet bankrupted the United States. He was able to do it because we had access to our own gold and silver, the real wealth. So we stopped doing business with them and did business amongst ourselves, which bankrupted the United States. You following? So in order to remove our power to do commerce equitably, fairly, within our own national capacity, they had to remove the gold and give us something else that they control. So if they control it and we need it to live, who do they control? Us. Right? April 5th, 1933. By virtue of the authority vested in me by Section 5B of the Act of October 6, 1917, as amended by Section 2 of the Act of March 9, 1933, entitled An Act to Provide Relief in the Existing National Emergency in Banking and for Other Purposes. They lied and said that there was a national banking emergency within their government, within them. Because remember, they stopped being government in 1861. They moved the seat of government in 1871. So everything since then has been to destroy our people. Right? So since the prophet came, he was putting in work to revive us. They went into an emergency. Right? Tracking? Etc. In which a mandatory act, Congress declared that a serious emergency exists. I, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, President of the United States of America, do declare that said national emergency still continues to exist, and pursuant to said section, do hereby prohibit the hoarding of gold coin, gold bullion, and gold certificates. With the continental United States by individuals, within the continental United States, by individuals, meaning our separate individual families, partnerships, businesses, associations, businesses, and corporations, businesses, and hereby prescribe the following regulations for carrying out the purpose of this order. Section 1. For the purpose of this regulation, the term hoarding means the withdrawal and withholding of gold coin, gold bullion, or gold certificates from the recognized and customary channels of trade. The term person means any individual, partnership, association, or corporation. Section 2. All persons are hereby required to deliver on or before May 1st, 1933, to the Federal Reserve Bank.
Run it back real quick. What did they say the term persons?
The term person means any individual, which means individual means separation.
Right.
Partnership, association, or corporation. Section 2. All persons are hereby required to deliver on or before May 1st, 1933, to a Federal Reserve Bank or a branch or agency thereof, or to any member bank of the Federal Reserve System, all gold coin, gold bullion, and gold certificates now owned by them or coming into the ownership on or before April 28, 1933, except the following. Such amount of gold as may be required for legitimate and customary use in industry, profession, or art within a reasonable time, including gold prior to refining and stocks of gold in reasonable amounts for the usual trade requirements of owners mining and refining such gold. Because remember, we had the right to mine gold. Then you just get gold whenever you want it. You get what I'm saying? The Grand Canyon?
Yeah.
That's why they didn't let us go there.
That and they found two 13 to 15-foot people still buried.
So, B, gold coin and gold certificates in an amount not exceeding in the aggregate $100 belonging to any one person, and gold coins having a recognized special value to collectors of rare and unusual coins. Gold coin and bullion embarked or held in trust for a recognized foreign government or foreign central bank or the Bank for International Settlements. Gold coin and bullion licensed for other proper transactions not involving hoarding, including gold coin and bullion imported for re-export or held pending action on applications for export licensing. Section 3. Until otherwise ordered, any person becoming the owner of any gold coin, gold bullion, or gold certificates after April 28, 1933, shall within 3 days after receipt thereof deliver the same in the manner prescribed in Section 2, unless such gold coin, bullion, or certificates are held for any of the purposes specified in paragraph A, B, or C, or section 2, or unless such gold coin or gold bullion is held for purposes specified in paragraph D of section 2, and the person holding it with respect to such gold coin or bullion, a licensee or applicant for license pending action thereon, meaning unless you get permission from us. Section 4, upon receipt of gold coin, gold bullion, or gold certificates delivered to in accord with section 2 or 3, the Federal Reserve Bank or member banks will pay, therefore, an equivalent amount of any other form of coin or currency coined or issued under the laws of the United States. Which Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution says what? Only gold coin and silver shall be used as money. And Article 1, Section 10 says only gold coin or silver coin shall be used to pay off a debt. So how can we pay off a debt if they say we can't hoard gold?
So are they like switching it with the money we have now?
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly what they were doing. So the paper we have in our wallets now, they were replacing. They were taking our this. They said we can't have this, right? And gave us this instead. This has actual energy in it. Gold is an amplifier, silver is an attractor or a magnet, and copper is a conduit. Check the periodic tables. Right? So these have real value, real energy, real weight. This is paper and ink.
Made from cotton, 75% cotton.
That they can print at free will and it only costs them paper and ink. This has no value. This has value.
So are we ever gonna get that back?
Yeah, you can get this. You can use this to get this. But they're setting the value of this and a lot of these, so we wouldn't use this to get this.
And here's the trick, look, you see the paper in here?
Yeah.
The clubs take it, the liquor store take it, all the places that you can't build and grow will take it. You see the gold and silver in his hand? Businesses, anything dealing with trust and different level type of business, they know it and accept that. But your liquor store, your sneaker store, and the places that we like to go don't accept the gold and silver. They know different. I can go to the bank with the silver and gold coin and establish a trust fund and set up everything, sit down with the teller, and she'll take the gold and silver or the paper money. But I can't go to the liquor store or go to Foot Locker and buy Jordans with the gold or
You
the
can't get
silver.
groceries with silver.
Can't get groceries, nothing.
All stuff that you need.
They'll take the paper, the monopoly money from you. So that's why they're labeling that matrix place where they say we are in now. That's part of it.
So I'm not gonna read the rest of that. You get the point.
Yeah.
Right? Now this is another proclamation by the same guy. This is from March 1933 to June 1934. Again, Library of Congress, so not me making it up. Right? It states, so this is a proclamation of 1933 by Roosevelt. Amended proclamation of March 6 and March 9, 1933, and the executive order of March 10, 1933, and all orders and regulations pursuant thereto by the President of the United States of America, a proclamation. Whereas on March 6, 1933, I, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, President of the United States of America, by virtue of authority vested in me by the Act of October 6, 1917, 40 Statute L 411, as amended, issued a proclamation declaring that an emergency existed and that a national banking holiday be observed. Whereas on March 9, 1933, I issued a proclamation continuing the terms and conditions of said proclamation of March 6, 1933, in full force and effect until further proclamation by the President. Whereas on March 10, 1933, I issued an executive order authorizing the appropriate authority having immediate supervision of banking institutions in each state, meaning they created a monopoly in each state, or any place subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, right? Puerto Rico, right? To permit any banking institution not a member of the Federal Reserve System to perform any or all of its usual banking functions except as otherwise provided, meaning they stop anyone from doing anything, except for under these terms because they're columns. Whereas the Secretary of the Treasury, pursuant to authority granted by other provisions of said executive order of March 10th, 1933, has acted upon all requests for licensing of bank members of the Federal Reserve System, whereas the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation has acted upon all applications to it from membership in the temporary Federal Deposit Insurance Fund as provided for in Section 12B(y) of the Federal Reserve Act as amended by Section 8 of the Act of June 16, 1933, Public Number 66, 73rd Congress, and has admitted to the said fund all applicant banks which are duly and properly qualified, and whereas it is now appropriate that the banking authority in each state and any place subject to the jurisdiction of the United States should have and exercise the sole responsibility for and control over banking institutions not members of the Federal Reserve System. They created a monopoly over everything. Now, therefore, I, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, President of the United States, in all caps, in order to assure that the banking authority in each state and in any place subject to the jurisdiction of the United States shall have and exercise the sole responsibility for and control over banking institutions which are not members of the Federal Reserve System, do hereby proclaim, order, direct, and declare that the proclamation of March 6, 1933 and March 9, 1933, and the executive order of March 10, 1933, and all orders and regulations pursuant thereto are amended effective the first day of January 1934 to exclude from their scope banking institutions which are not members of the Federal Reserve System, provided, however, that no banking institution shall pay out any gold coin, gold bullion, or gold certificates except as authorized by the Secretary of the Treasury, nor allow the withdrawal of any currency or hoarding, nor engage in any transaction in foreign exchange except as may be undertaken for legitimate and normal business requirements, for reasonable traveling and or other personal requirements, and for the fulfillment of contracts entered into prior to March 6, 1933. In witness thereof, I have hereto set my hand and caused the seal of the United States to be affixed, done in the city of Washington this 30th day of December, in the year of our Lord, 1933, and of the independence of the United States, the 158th Franklin Delano Roosevelt, etc. So, they took all the gold in the first proclamation, right? Then they said, no banks can do business except through under us. Then he said, each state bank claims jurisdiction of every other bank not a member of the Federal Reserve, because they're federal banks. You know what I'm saying? So that thus created a monopoly over all of the banking systems here in North America, right? Meaning that they're not giving gold to anyone.
So who would be the state banks? Like
The state banks,
like the J.P. Morgan.
I don't think JP Morgan is a state bank. But there's a bank next to the courthouse. That's state bank. It's not like Bank of America. They're considered a national bank.
So what did it mean when you got the seal?
That means on his authority, like this right here, the seal. This is from Congress, so it's proof that it's from Congress. You know what I'm saying? Well, now remember what he just did is contrary to the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Article 1, Section 10. Right. So we need to be clear that they removed anyone's equitable chance to pay anything. Right. Now, according to trust law, right? According to trust law, if you're my heir, right? Let's say you're a child. Let's say you're my son.
Not too far off.
As the administrator of the trust, I'm responsible to pay off all of your debts, correct? Okay. So in equity, if they're administrating the Federal Reserve Bank and they took all of our gold, in equity, they're to take on all of the debts associated therewith, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So this is the law, right here. United States Codes, Title 12, subsection 411, from Congress, again. So since they took all the gold and they issued us paper, they take on all of the debt associated therewith. Tracking? Okay. Title 12, subsection 411. Again, this is from the Library of Congress, subsection 411, issuance of reserve banks, nature of obligation, redemption. Federal Reserve notes, which when you take that thing out your pocket, you call a dollar, it says what, right on it? Federal Reserve note. So that's what we're talking about here, which they also call USD, right?
Yep.
Okay. Federal Reserve notes to be issued at the discretion of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System for the purpose of making advances to Federal Reserve banks through the Federal Reserve agents as hereinafter set forth, and for no other purpose or authorized. The said notes shall be the obligations of the United States. What does the word obligation mean?
They
Have
have to,
responsibility.
Which is a debt, right?
you know?
So now, since we're talking about group economics still, right? Let's say we want to buy a property, and these Europeans are selling it for $9 million. Who's responsible to pay that?
The Europeans.
Group economics. Now, additionally, if they're trying to foreclose on someone's mortgage and they're asking for USD, who's obligated to pay that? Additionally, when I asked you earlier, can a note be used? Can a note is a promise to pay, right? Can a promise to pay be used as payment? So now, if any of these mortgage companies are asking you to pay them in Federal Reserve notes, well, you can't accept this. It's a mere promise to pay, not payment. So I can't even give it to you.
What about people using their Social Security as pretty much as an account and talking about like supposedly the whole thing?
Yeah, right. Authenticating the birth certificate, getting access to the bondless account, all that, right? It's worth billions and all that. Yes, right. Okay. If I have a bank, like I have my own bank, my own gold and silver, right? I got the keys to the bank. I know the codes, right? If you don't know those codes, can you get access to that?
No.
So, if you authenticate a birth certificate, do they give you banking codes?
No.
Transaction numbers, routing numbers, passwords, anything? So how are you getting access to anything? This is me asking you.
Discipline, just researching, trying to get the.
Let me ask you again. Here's a simpler thing. If I had the key to my house, this is one key, right?
Yeah.
So you get in the door into the house. Can you get into the house without the key?
No.
I mean, obviously you can break in, but besides that, can you get into the house without the key?
Nah.
So how do you think you're going to get access to any of these banking, routing numbers, passwords, transactions to type in the computer? Let me transfer this $1 million to my account and withdraw it. How are you doing that?
But I have a piece of paper that says that I have rights to your house.
How?
Authenticated.
So now, right? If it's my house, because now we talk about common law copyright, right? The Federal Reserve created those notes. It's theirs. How do you have rights to it?
Even if I authenticated it?
You went to them to authenticate it, which certifies that it's theirs. Because if you have to, right?
So I just said it was theirs again?
Yes. Right? Because, huh?
What do you do to not go to them?
Enforce the Constitution. This is where it gets tricky, where there's no solution like that. There is no solution. It's like, oh yeah, I figured it out. This is how you do it. No, we have to come together with this information to figure out what's our next step. You get what I'm saying? This is the purpose of the Moorish Divine and National Movement.
So I read in like the birth certificate thing that people have to write stuff for you. Like, do they really have to know you?
What do you mean?
Like, like it said, it was like a couple different steps, and it was saying for the birth certificate, authenticating birth certificate, it was saying like you have to get like 3 different people to write saying who you are, or whatever, and you choose like Puerto Rico or some place that you're from.
Non-hate countries.
Yeah. So like, how much do they have to know you? Like how long?
So here's the thing. Why are you doing that in the first place? That's an honest question. Because I can't answer your question. If I don't know what remedy you're seeking, then I can't answer your question.
I don't know, I just want all my money back.
What money? They don't have any money. Federal Reserve notes are not money. So now this is what I'm trying to express to you. They're using the Federal Reserve note to grab your attention. The real issue is they're foreigners on our land telling us we have to pay them anything. That's the real issue. Tracking?
Mhm.
So now we as a people need to address that, which we have reference points in which to do so. One reference point is Fidel Castro. What did he do in Cuba? He nationalized Cuba. Now, what does nationalizing mean?
That means nobody can touch it.
Basically, it's taking something that's been administrated by private individuals and giving it to the nationals. So instead of going after this paper that they can just print, what's paper made of? Trees. What are trees connected to? Ground. This is our land, right? So how about we say, get off our land? Or instead, okay, since you're already here doing business here, you're already printing the Federal Reserve notes, give us vouchers, because it ain't real money, and you're administrating everything, give us vouchers so we can gradually get out of this. Because there ain't no we're just going to get out of this. Just so everyone knows, that's it ain't that simple. Or else the prophet would have been got us out of this, you know what I'm saying? But these are questions that one person cannot answer. I'm only giving you these are issues that we need to address together. This is the information that we need to know together so we can properly address these things. As an example, most people are interested in getting access to that money. First of all, it's not money. Second of all, that's not the real issue. You know what I'm saying? Because when you read the Rex 84 plan, they talk about how they're using the Federal Reserve notes and targeting people's greed, knowing that the people will give up their true wealth for a promise. We're giving up the land for paper. The land is the real wealth. They got us distracted with the paper, chasing the paper, which that's what we say, I'm chasing paper today. And not even claiming the land because we think we're from somewhere else. The real issue is the land. Land. And they're throwing things at us like maritime jurisdiction, which is just contracts. UCC, which is just contracts. Enforcing the Constitution is enforcing the contract.
Pretty much is competent to slavery, pretty much, right?
What?
Like you becoming a slavery to the contract.
Who's becoming a slave to what?
UCC,
No.
contracts and all that.
When if you read, people actually don't read the UCCs. I know that for a fact because they only read certain things and then they'll talk about it. If you read, this is what I'm going to tell you.
It's
Just
different
read.
UCCs though.
Hold on. I know. Read the purpose of the UCCs, which is explained in the UCCs. Read that and you see exactly what it is. And if you read more, it'll tell you you get to choose which laws are applicable to what contracts. It says it right in the UCCs. And it says that the UCCs are used for making rules and regulations common amongst the states. That's it. So you have something to refer to base your opinion on. It doesn't mean anyone's subject to it. Man cannot be subject to what man created. That's like a mother being subject to her son. How? If I wrote my book, can my book then rule me? No. So if someone wrote a UCC, does that mean that rules you? No. You know what I'm saying? But people will say that because they don't know what they're talking about. But they're able to say certain legal terms that you may not know, so it sounds like they know what they're talking about. Yes.
So we recap, right?
Yeah.
We've always had the wealth.
Yes.
There are different points in history that we can refer to that tells us we don't have to pay this, we don't have to pay this, we don't have to pay that. We can start our own businesses individually and run them, right? And earn our own and protect them once we copyright it, common law copyrights, right? So how do we, now that we all theoretically own our own businesses and we're earning what we need to earn to satisfy our lives, and when do we get to the group?
Well, you can only get that, too. Because if you got a business with no group, who's buying the stuff?
Right. So now we understand, or now we comprehend that we can run our own businesses. We don't have to pay them or ask them for anything.
Yes.
What are we doing now that we each own a business? What are we doing as a body?
Each business should pay taxes to the government to keep them protected, and then just keep that going perpetually. That's what every other nation does.
Pretty much like home finance, but it's our own group.
Is that what this class is about?
Yeah.
Economics?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
She's like, I'm here now.
Any questions? I know there's a lot. Any questions? A few of the questions I had when I was studying this was why? Why? Why are they doing this? This isn't fair. This isn't morally just. Why are they doing this? Why? But then when you study history, you'll see that we've been at war with these people for thousands of years. The Treaty of Peace and Friendship was yet another treaty and an attempt to end those wars. Right?
So the word, it's negrophobia. It's because of fear.
I wouldn't necessarily go appropriate, but I would say fear, yeah. But it's not just fear, it's all right, let me see if I have it here. This is it.
Pretty much we're confident.
This is the Rex 84 plan. Alright, so this is the Rex 84 plan, which is in harmony with Title 12, subsection 411 in the proper. Wait, before I go forward, do we need a break?
Yeah.
I'm hearing most people are saying no. All right, great. This is in harmony with the Federal Reserve notes, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and then after someone remind me to read this. If I don't. After I read this, right? So all of these things are connected. This has been deemed the silent weapon for silent wars. When you think of weapon, you think of a physical gun, right? Shooting, bang, pow, explosion, rockets, missiles, right? When you think of war. What they're doing to us is a silent war, meaning they can control your life, my life, my mother's life, your mother's life, your father's life, your daughter's life, your son's life, using that Federal Reserve note. And it's so subtle, most people don't even see it or realize it. How do they do that? They say, I'm going to foreclose on your house if you don't give me Federal Reserve notes that I can print. And you can't. They're going to say, I'm going to charge you for parking on the street in Federal Reserve notes. And if you don't pay me in these Federal Reserve notes that I print, and you can't, I'm towing your car, so now you can't work. To get more Federal Reserve notes from my boy who's part of this to pay to live in your house, who my other boy owns National Grid, who you got to pay him.
Will you be able to use the TDC?
It's all TDC. Now, I hear what you're saying. I realize what level you're on. It's more than just using it. It's knowing why you're doing it, knowing what it is, and knowing that you can enforce that principle if needed. But actually writing TDC in actuality does nothing. Just to be clear. Yes, you have to understand what its function is, more than just knowing what it is. You know what I'm saying? Are we clear? All right. This is the King Alfred plan. This is what is against us every single day. You go to the store, get a bag of chips for 25 cents, this is against you. You go into grandma's house in your car, you gotta pay for gas, this is against you. You're trying to foreclose on your house, this is against you. You gotta go to Section 8 for living, this is against you. You gotta go to the grocery store to buy food, this is against you. You gotta buy clothes to live, this is against you. You trying to support your children, this is against you. Energy. Energy is recognized as the key to all activity on Earth. Natural science is the study of the sources and control of natural energy, and social science, theoretically expressed as economics, is the study of the source and control of social energy. Right? Basically saying how people exert themselves and the means in which they do so. By studying that, you can study how to control them. Tracking? We sure? Right. As a more cardinal expression, if you have a car and I take that car away from you, you can no longer do the same things like travel far to do business and get a bunch of things done in a short amount of time without that car. So now, in a way, I'm controlling you. Both are bookkeeping systems, mathematics. Therefore, Mathematics is a primary energy science. This is why we keep talking about we need our money, because we see that as the physical numbers. Okay? That's why they have us chasing the authenticate birth certificate, because that's its physical expression, right? Therefore, mathematics is the primary energy science, and the bookkeeper can be king if the public can be kept ignorant of the methodology of the bookkeeping. All science is merely a means to an end. The means is knowledge. The end is control. That's why they're doing what they're doing. Just for control purposes. They get to control a bunch of things, so now we're under them, and they get to just control us. Now they get to live a comfortable life, or we have a poor life. You know what I'm saying? Because when we're dealing with physics, two things can occupy the same space at once. So if there's only one apple, the Europeans see it as, are these Moors going to get it or am I going to get it? You know what I'm saying? I mean, we can share the apple, but that's what the Pishian was supposed to do, share the apple. Beyond this remains one issue. Who will be the beneficiary? Or who will be in control? Following? Sure. In 1954, this was the issue of primary concern. Although the so-called moral issues were raised, in view of the law of natural selection, it was agreed that a nation or world of people who will not use their intelligence are no better than animals who do not have intelligence. That's how they view us.
Animals?
Yeah. If we choose, hold on, it's not, that's just how they view us. It's if we choose, meaning a choice, if we choose to not use our intelligence, then we should be treated as if we don't have any. Because if intelligence says, all right, I touched the oven and I got burned, I'm not going to touch it again. Right? That's intelligence. But if you touch it and you get burned and you touch it again, then you deserve to get burned again. Right? So now if I tell you that these Europeans are from Europe, you know, oh yeah, that makes sense. But then you go out and start calling them American, okay. Right? If I tell you a license is permission, but then you go ahead and go to the DMV and get a license, then that's what you agree to. Then you're agreeing to be subject to those codes. It's an agreement.
Burning yourself.
Yeah.
So if you already know it,
Then what? You can just all right. This is let's act like this is a license. You get it? You don't actually use it. You understand what I'm saying? This is also why the prophet said, Moors, your nationality card will change in your pocket. Because it's all mental competence. Remember, the universe is mental. That's the first Hermetic principle. That's rule number one. The universe is mental. Meaning anything outside of this doesn't really matter. You get what I'm saying? I mean, that's not essentially what it is, but meaning if you know what a license is, the actual existence of it doesn't matter. As long as you know what it is.
That's what happened with Dr. Seven. And I believe it was 1987. They were trying to bring him to the Supreme Court and he won the case against the United States Service Corporation.
Yeah.
Because they were saying that he was practicing
Medicine without a license.
yeah, like the whole license situation with the doctor, becoming the doctor, whatever, whatnot. But he explained to them who he was. He explained to them that what he was doing it for.
This is what he said. I seen an interview where he said this is what he asked the judge. He said, doesn't it say in the Bible that let your herb be thy medicine, or let your food be thy medicine, and your medicine be thy food, and every herb bearing fruit is your medicine, or something like that? The judge was like, yeah. Then Dr. Sebi asked the judge, and I'm paraphrasing, you just find this on YouTube. He asked the judge, well, isn't there only one sickness on the planet? And the judge was like, what do you mean? Then he explained a bunch of things, like when you have AIDS, there's a bunch of mucus in your body. When you have bronchitis, there's a bunch of mucus in your body. When you have all these diseases, the actual solution or what's causing it is mucus. And then they dismiss the case because of that.
Because he knew.
Because he knew.
He was functioning right.
Yeah,
in
he knew.
his mind.
He didn't put TDC or UCC 1 dash blah blah blah. He didn't do none of that. He said, well, licenses, permission, all these. He just knew what he was doing.
Right now, even doctors right now, they're prescribing like Percocets and stuff like that, and they on the UCC, whatever you want to call a contract, and they not really have this, and they show this mind of consciousness of what they're doing to the patient and killing them legally.
Yeah, but it's not illegal. Every time you go into a doctor's office, what do they have you do? Sign, which means you what?
Under
Agree.
the contract of getting
It
killed.
means you agree, right?
Yeah.
So we as a people can't keep saying, well, they're the bad guy. And then we go, oh yeah, let me go inside this view. You know, yeah, you control my life. And then go around and talk to our people, they're the bad guy when we keep agreeing. Follow?
It's all about license and having the knowledge of what you're doing.
Yes, mental competence. Any other questions? Oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So to go full circle back to economics, if you could correct my statements, are we going to somehow go by as far as reestablishing our own nation or Narragansett Council that is our government? So we need to pay into that government to allow us to build our commerce and our group economics.
Yes.
Via by us grouping together and suing, or we're just going to start individually doing economics between each other.
So now, you asked a lot of questions, and a lot can be said about it, right? One, the Moorish Science Temple of America is supposed to be the state house in each state. You know what I'm saying? And then within the main temple, or the grand body of each state, because state means group of people bound together by common law. So within every group of Moors is supposed to be a sub-temple which will represent the city or the municipal government, right? So then each municipal government would pay to the head temple. That head temple would then pay to the Unity Hall in Chicago, which would be the federal government. You know what I'm saying? But in that establishment, the prophet already allotted or allocated amount of finances. So when we have a group like this, the prophet would come. Okay, I see the work that you're doing. I mean, not even just us. I'm not saying us. I'm just saying any group of Moors doing work. Period. Not just us, or anyone. Go to a group of Moors. Say, okay, here's a charter. Here's enough finances. So now the Moors here can have their own businesses to continue to do this. Right. That's from my study. That's how it's supposed to happen. Right. Knowing that these dirty people did what they did, that ain't happening. So one way I see us being able to get access to the finance that we need to do this would be to do like the prophet said, enforce the Constitution. And what venue do you enforce the Constitution? Court. How would you sue these people? A tort claim. How much can you get from a tort claim? $75,000. How much can you get for suing these people for genocide? $1 million. So now we have access to about $1 million. We can do something with $1 million if we sue them.
Right.
So that's another way to get access to funds.
I mean, can I ask you something between that? Can they be able to tax you on $1 million? Because you know how the IRS want to be in everybody's business.
Yeah, but then we can just say, what is the IRS's law as it relates to taxation and treaties?
No taxation without just enforce the treaty. Yeah. That's what the
IRS
UCC
tax
say.
Law, it says, if you're claiming tax exemption from a treaty, just enforce the treaty.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, you don't gotta sign up with no paperwork or nothing. No UCC financial statement, nothing. Enforce the treaty. This is my land. That's enforcing the treaty. You know what I'm saying? So, and then again, additionally, there's already Asiatics who own businesses. Like, let's use Nas as an example, right? Nas said out of his mouth, he's a Moor. I'm pretty sure he owns millions of dollars. I mean, I don't know. I can just assume that he has money. He can then support us in doing this. And then we can then, in turn, support his business and protect his business from the IRS in whatever capacity that we can. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, within the next 10 months or so, if you're trying to kind of follow the possibly going to court versus we have 50 people or 20 people we could go and be amongst each other and try to do commerce.
So here's the thing. We don't have to do one or the other. We can do both.
Yeah.
Because we're supposed to be linking with other Moors in other areas. Like These Moors came from so-called New Jersey.
That's because I can't put my trust in waiting for 200 more, 300 more to get confident enough to help me sustain what I need to sustain for the next 10 months. Because I don't know when I'm going to get this.
So now what you're talking about is another problem that we have to face as a people. Right now, we're arguing declare nationality, don't be part of the system. But right now, we still need to be part of the system because they're providing all the jobs and all the money.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? But again, we can use them, start suing them, or we don't gotta sue them. How about we just go as a body of people? Imagine all of us. This is just theory. And we can kind of confirm this because of what happened when we went to City Hall and we demanded $500 to fix your door from City Hall. Just 5 of us. Imagine 100 of us going to City Hall saying, what's up? Or 1,000 of us going to the General Assembly, Rhode Island State House, speaking to the treasurer. Hey, we see that Gina Raimondo discharged her mortgage for $1. How come our family's paying $200,000 for a mortgage, struggling paycheck to paycheck? What's up with that? And now, since we're at the table with these people, right? When we went to City Hall, then they come in like, oh, you're from the so-and-so matter? Okay, we'll deal with that first. They had a stack of papers like this. Now that we confronted them, now it's different. You know what I'm saying? And don't believe me. Go to court for yourself with your best, see what happens. Use your nationality card, see what happens. You get what I'm saying? I can't convince you of anything. We have to do it. Tracking? There's multiple ways for us to do this. Not one person has all the answers. So it would behoove us to link with other Moors. And also for us to be honest, so we can gain some credibility amongst each other. So like you said, there would be no need to not trust any of us.
Yeah, the trust is like, I can't wait on someone.
The trust is, I don't know who you are.
Who you are, are you going to be able to come and do what you say you're going to do every time and make sure to communicate and outreach to bring in more people to do this particular task, which is to sue.
Yeah.
Versus like you were saying, a couple of classes, there's going to be 20, there's going to be 10, now there's 5. The consistency of that. If I had 5 people I could trust in here and we could do commerce, I could reach out to other Moors and non-Moors and other nationals.
So part of this, I apologize, part of this is why we at Rise of the Moors offer other Moors, we'll host your product on our website so we do commerce with everyone. So now we have more means to, look, this is what Rise of the Moors did. Rise of the Moors got this temple. And then now we're asking the people for notes so we can keep it. So everything's not on our back anymore. You know what I'm saying? That's how we can start. That's how we started. Other Moors in the area seem to do the same thing. And then once they start doing it, then okay, oh, how much money y'all got? How much y'all got? Oh, let's get this building over here. Let's fix it up. Let's build housing for our people. Get them off the street. Instead of waiting for, how come one, like there's people in the comments, Jamal, how come you don't do this? I'm one person. How come you don't do it? You know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of mental issues that we have to fix within ourselves and within our people. Like
that has to start first of all with what we put in our body, because we've been conditioned to not trust each other. We've been conditioned to be against each other. We've been conditioned as women to see each other as competition instead of sisters. So that is something that's embedded in our DNA. How do you change that? Changing your molecular structure, and how you do that with the food you put in your body. If you keep eating that, you're gonna keep thinking that. Okay, so it has to start there. You know, it's more than just, okay, I know all this law. Great, you know all that law, but can you execute the law? It's to the point that when you have a clean body and clean mind, you are able to read a comment or a document like you just show and be like, damn, I get this. In another state of mind, you might read it like, this is not coming in, I can't get it. What is this? What are they talking about? I don't get the words, you know? So that's why I say all kinds of praises to Dr. Sebi, and we should be following that in order to change our molecular structure, to be able to see each other as no competition, but you're my sister. And I will stump somebody for you, and I don't need to know you, and I don't need to know your background. I'm with you. You know, we don't have that. You know, we need to build that. We need to build. So the same way we're trying to build nation, the same way we're trying to build, you know, sue these companies, we need to build brotherhood, sisterhood at the same time. Yes. At the same time.
National
that
pride.
Is what is going to make us advance. We need to step away from The old is division, the old is I'm right, you're wrong, the old is no. Maybe you might be right, but can you make me understand why you're right? No, like, oh, I'm right, you're wrong. I'm not talking to you no more. No. It's like, okay, I might not see eye to eye with you, but I don't hate you. The love stay the same. And you're seeing your way, I'm seeing my way, but I still love you. You know? So yeah, we have a lot of work to do.
Yep. So part of that. Part of that, there's a saying in the military. They say misery breeds brotherhood. It's sure, the experiences that we go through together will bring us to that point.
Listen, that is nothing but the truth. When we went to the special period in Cuba, for those that don't know, I'm from Cuba, I'm Cuban. When we went to the special period in Cuba, it brought us together as a people. To the point that I can go to my neighbor and tell them, I don't have nothing to eat. Here, I have one egg. Let me cut it in half for you, half for my son. And I saw it. I remember my mother crying over plantains because it was a blackout, 3-day blackout, okay? And she couldn't see, and the plantains burned, and that was the only thing she had to eat. And she was crying over the plantains. The neighbor was like, what are you doing? No, wait. Let the girl come over here. Let her eat in my house. Calm down, don't let her see you crying. Stuff like that. So yes, the misery brought us together as people. As okay, you don't have this, I'll give it to you.
So now imagine this, right? We talked about we need to stop being divided because of how we see something.
It is true.
All of us see things different. But I guarantee you that all these people in this room see that we need to do something about these Europeans and their injuries that they're perpetuating on us, right? So knowing that an experience will bring people together, knowing that we may have differences, but we can agree that these Europeans need to pay justly. What if we, despite our differences, did a class action suit against these people that are violating us? So now I have my perspective, I can put in what I think should be in the suit. Since someone else has a different perspective, they can put in what they see. So now we have a clear picture, now we have a solid argument, and we can sue these people. So it doesn't matter if I think something and you think something else. If we get that $10 billion from suing the United States, I don't care what you think. We won.
We won a thing. I think I'm gonna put a house here.
Yeah, and we're gonna put your house. Yeah, I don't like you. You gonna be over there? Don't cross my street. All right, cool.
No problem.
If you want to sue them again, let me know.
All right, that's it.
Yeah. That simple.
Still tell my children, don't trust that guy across the street. You need help.
Right now,
Trust that guy.
right now we're still in the I'm right, you're wrong, I'm right. Oh, you shouldn't be doing this. That like we all have the flying unicorn solution for everything when we should be sitting down and listen, I don't like what you're talking about it, but guess what? This is the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Let's try to tackle the bigger picture, and then we're gonna see our difference, how we're gonna get it done.
Quote with Moors, no matter who you are. We don't care if you come to the temple all the time or not. We're still gonna go for you because we understand.
Right.
That's what we do.
It's like picture a big old lion attacking us in this room. We all got sticks. We hit the lion with the stick to save ourselves. And I say, wait. You hit that lion wrong with that stick, huh? You ain't gonna save us that way. You gotta hit this way.
You're not holding the stick
The lion
right.
is not holding the stick right. Hold the stick this way. And it's like the lion's killing us right here, right now. You gotta tell me about which way to hold the stick. What are we doing here? I think we're all attacking the same
Why don't we
beast.
just sue these people?
Yeah, period.
Or if you don't want to sue them, if that's too scary, okay. Those of us who want to do it, we'll do it. Those of us who don't, support us.
Support.
Or if you don't even want to do that, okay, we don't want to sue them. All right. How about we go to the General Assembly together and say, yo, this is, and if we have certain disagreements, how about we sit down, write down what we agree to, and then demand that.
I believe if it would suit them, it could be able to be beneficial for us to be able to be in a better state of mind.
Yeah.
To like help each other out,
Yes.
to be able to get each other's like
The trust
Medicare,
fund.
like our own trust funds, like our own like
Not
what I'm
only that,
saying, insurance
it-
company. They know they don't have to be able to touch us, understand and preaching the law to make sure they're doing, and then to be able to come for our land.
That's
to
what
be
I-
able to be charged for tax or anything.
Yeah,
like
that goes back to exactly what I was saying. It will come when we change our molecular structure, and our molecular structure will be changed with the way we eat and what we put in our bodies.
Even the way we talk too, because
You
we
know,
repeat
so if we don't do that, we're gonna still with the stinking thinking, and we're gonna still seeing each other as competition, and still seeing each other as enemies and all that, because in our DNA. They feed us to us through the music. They feed it to us through the TV. They feed it to us through the food. They feed it to us. We can't help it. Listen, okay, if I wasn't in the state of mind I am, I'll be over here like, is she looking at my man? Is she looking at my man? You know?
That's true.
Do you understand what I'm saying? It's the molecular structure. So that's why, okay, let's do a community detox for a spring equinox and then praising to the ancestors to get back to our ancestors' roots. You know, stuff like that. In the meantime that you write who you're going to sue, we over here supporting you spiritually and supporting you physically with what we put in our body. So that's why everything has to come. Like we cannot just concentrate on, oh, let's sue, let's do this. What are we doing about our diets? What are we doing about our spiritual, life? What are we doing about this? We cannot neglect it. We cannot neglect it, And that's a lot of things that Moors don't understand. They are so caught up with law. They are so caught up with paper, and they are forgetting the rest. They are forgetting the rest. They are neglecting the spirit. You cannot be a whole man if you don't have a whole part of your body's functioning. So whole part of your body includes spirituality also and includes the diet. What are you eating?
Matt. Any more questions, comments? All right, cool. So now.
Is a lean and soup are two different things, right?
Yeah, but they're similar. A lean can lead to a suit.
Okay. Which one takes precedent? Which one is more?
It doesn't matter because if you file a complaint to try to sue someone, that's a lien. You're leaning against someone, so now someone else has to answer. The difference between a suit and a lien is just paperwork that someone can just burn and ignore. But a federal indictment, with marshal showing up at your door, how are you ignoring that? So instead of us sending them documents that they will burn, just like when they send us bills in the mail, what do we do with it? We shred it, we throw it away, until what? Until they physically show up to the door and turn off the electricity or the heat, right? So these Europeans, we keep sending them papers. What are they gonna do? Ignore it until what? The more show up. It's that simple. It is that simple.
Not rocket science.
So we went over. Do we need a break?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're in 2 hours and 17 minutes.
Well, I still got more.
Yes, a
I
break.
will-
I need water.
All right. We'll just sign out, and I'll continue next Saturday. Thank y'all for tuning in. Don't believe me? Go to the Library of Congress. Peace.